Hi guys, so I'm starting a little solar panel project for our camper, so I just thought I would go ahead and make a little video about it. So as you know, we've got the Wanderer, our teardrop camper that we got so that we can more easily pull with our Jeep Wrangler. And I did upgrade the battery. I've got a 600 amp hour battery instead of the 400 amp hour that came with it. But we plan to do some camping. I don't know if you quite call it off-grid, but we're gonna camp primitive campsites as much as we possibly can. So I wanted to add a solar panel. We do have a solar panel port so that you can like bring a panel with you, set it up, and just plug it in through a charge controller and plug it in. I want to do a more permanent mount, so what I want to do is I want to put up here on the roof, I think what I'm going to do is a piece of angle iron across the roof, and then self-tap screw that into like the edges here, and self-tap it into that angle iron and silicone everything down. I don't want it rubbing, but I am adding the angle iron so that any wind, any gusts, whatever, don't just rip it off the roof. But I really am trying to limit the amount of holes I put in this roof. So, and what I'm hoping, I'm still trying to figure it out, but I'm hoping I can run my wires down through my vents and inside, rather than trying to run my wires on the outside of the camper. But I don't know that I have that quite figured out yet. So this is what I got. I have from Renogy this that I got on Amazon, and it's just a little solar kit for RV. I'm sure it could be mounted more permanently if you're off-grid with a little cabin or something. But oddly enough, the controller is called the Wanderer Solar Charge Controller, and so is our camper, the Wanderer. So seems pretty fitting. So pretty simple charge controller, solar panel, battery, and then you just select what type of battery you're charging so that it can work with the batteries. It does have a little port, RS232, so that you can like mount this somewhere more hidden, and then have a little interface upgrade somewhere else in the camper. But I'm pretty much just going to be using this. I don't know, someday maybe I'll do the upgrade, but just a 100-watt solar panel for this install. So let's see, let's look in the camper and I'll show you. So inside the camper, right here's our electrical interface where AC and DC come together and are controlled. So this lug right back here is where my 12-volt comes from the battery. So I believe that's where I'm going to go from my solar charge controller to that lug. That way then it's helping to feed anything in the camper or feeding the battery to charge the battery. So as you can see, there are some wires. I've got a negative bus bar here. This camper did come with an inverter, 1000 watt for running the refrigerator. There's our water pump. So I'm going to try and mount, I believe, the solar charge controller right about here so that I just have a little bit of interface with it. But my challenge is I want to get the wires inside the camper, and I'd like to bring them more from the roof instead of just down and around and underneath. So I'm going to be looking for a vent pipe and we'll see what happens. Okay guys, so I've got my measurement on my angle iron here to fit the top of the roof from edge to edge. I just want to put some screws in on the edges, and then I'll do some silicone across it just so it sits there and doesn't rub. Okay, so I've got the length I want, so I'm going to do a little 45 corner, just so nothing sharp is sticking out on the edges if we're going under trees or whatever. So just trying to figure out, I think that's the way I want it. So I'll do a little 45. Get it the right way. Okay, so I just wanted to show you guys that anywhere that I'm going to be putting self-tapping like roofing screw, anywhere I'm making a penetration in the roof, which will be on the edges of this L bracket, I'm using this blackjack super flash cement. Says it's good, 30 years, that it's flexible and watertight. And then the 100% clear silicone I'm using anywhere that I just want to create an adhesion. So throughout the middle of the L bracket, just so it doesn't rub, and just helps hold it down. And when I glue down the solar panel, so it doesn't rub on the roof, I will also be using that. Alright guys, so you can see I've already got my silicone spaced throughout the center. I just don't want things to rub around when there's wind, and I'm using the blackjack on either corner where I'm going to be putting my screws through to try and get a really good seal and no leaks. Okay, and then I'm just leaving it, oh, an eighth or so from the edge of the seal, just in case it wants to expand a little bit. I've got just a little room and it can do that. Messy stuff. Okay, that's that side. The other side. Alright, so there's the L bracket. I'll get a couple paper towels and just kind of clean things up a little bit. But that gives me the support that I'm looking for. Alright guys, so you can see I drilled a hole in the vent for the gray tank below. I'm trying to use that to run my wires through, and then I'll just seal it all back up. Right now I don't have a fish tape, so I'm trying to figure out what I can use to get something up there so I can pull the wires back down to this compartment. So I will keep messing around and let you know how I do. Alright guys, so I was able to use some wire to run up through the vent I've got a little hook on it here, so I am going to tape my wires to it to that'll be my positive and negative from the solar panel down to the charge controller, and that should give me a clean path from the roof of the camper down to the inside of the camper into the compartment under the bed where my charge controller is going to be, and where I'm able to hook up to all my wire connections. So I'll just get this taped on real good, get it tapered here where I gotta pull it back through the hole in the pipe down inside. All right, let's see how this goes. All right, so here we are inside the compartment. And come on. Gotta check the wires at the top. Got snagged. Alright, yep, it had gotten snagged at the top. Alright guys, so there we got it. We got our positive negative wire down here into the compartment. Alright guys, so I've got my wire pulled through down into the compartment from the roof. So I'm just getting everything laid out here to get everything wired up for the install. So my plan is to use a fuse, 15 amp fuse coming in. So I'm going to fuse that before my on-off switch. I want to be able to turn my solar panel off, so I can choose not to charge the battery in the camper. Say if I'm plugged in to 120, I don't want the two fighting each other. So I'm going to fuse the positive side to there. I'm also thinking I will then, let's see, when I come out of here to the battery, I'm going to also fuse with a 15 amp from the controller to the power that I hook up to in the camper. I just want to make sure everything's protected and that I don't have any issues. Alright, I'll show you what it looks like when I've got it all put together. Alright guys, so here's what I've got put together. So from the solar panel coming down to my compartment, I will be connecting it here. That will be fused. That will then go through, let's see, this will be a 15 amp fuse. Then I'm running an on-off switch. It's rated for 20 amps. So that if I want to isolate the solar panel, I can do so. Like I said before, I just don't want to compete if the camper's plugged in. I don't want to be competing with the charger that's built into the camper. So I want to be able to isolate the panel. So it'll go into the positive side of the solar panel. The wires that are coming down, hook the negative directly in. Then to the battery, I've got a fused holder again. That will also be 15 amp, and that will go to the connection in the camper. And then I've got the negative, and that will connect to the negative bus bar in the compartment. in the camper. And so I will get this ready to mount and show you that. Alright, so got all my wires in here. Did a little test fit. So I'm ready to mount the charge controller onto this little wood bracket that I put together. Alright, then I can mount my on-off switch up here. I'm going to get a little bit of glue for that, just don't want it sliding around. So I'll just show you real quick. Drilled a hole here in the back panel, and that's where the on-off switch for the solar controller will go. Alright guys, so I've got my bracket on top of the camper ready to go. My wires are run up to the roof. So my thought is, this came with quick disconnects, so like you can sit it out, connect your wires and connect it to the camper. Since I'm doing a more permanent install, I'm going to drill 2 holes on the side, put grommets in, run my wires in. I'll cut my connectors back, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches so I can use them maybe with a different solar panel. But I'm going to make a hard connection, and since it's just going to stay up on top of the camper. So I'll do that now. Okay, so I've got 2 rubber grommets, just don't want the wires to be rubbing. Okay, there's one. There's 2. Alright, so I'll be able to run my wires in, make my connections, and then I can glue this down. I'm just going to use 100% clear silicone. Glue this down to the roof of the camper, and with the L bracket on this far side, screw in some self-tapper screws just so there is no lift or vibration, and should be good to go for years. Alright guys, so I've got my 10 gauge wires coming up through the vent, through the grommets into the inside of the solar panel. I cut my quick connects off. I've got my butt connectors on here, so I will make my connections. Get that done, so positive. Okay. Negative. Okay, and then these are heat shrink butt connectors, so I'll go ahead and do that so I get a nice seal. Alright, so we've got our connection, it's all sealed up. So I will get ready to flip this and mount it to the roof. Alright, so I had already test fitted for my placement. I've got pencil lines so I know where to put my caulk, and got my solar panel all connected to the wires, so I think I'm ready. Okay, get some self-tapping screws. Okay guys, so here inside the camper in the compartment, I've got my wires coming down through the vent pipe for the gray tank. So I still got to get that cleaned up a little bit. I'm going to do like a drip loop in this just in case any condensation or anything like that. I don't want water following the wires down and leaking in here. So I'm going to do a little loop inside the pipe as a drip loop. Then I'm going to silicone this all up so that we get no gases or any drips or anything inside the camper. I have my power coming down through a fuse link into an on-off switch so I can isolate the solar panel. From that, it goes to the solar controller. Then from out of the solar controller, another fuse link. I just don't want to take any chances. And then this comes through the back of my junction box here for the camper. I've got my 120 side, 12 volt side. So my wire comes in and connects to this bus bar, the same place that the battery connects. That way, anything that the battery is being distributed to, now my solar power is to, or can also charge back the battery. And then from the solar controller. I have that grounded to the grounding bus bar down here. So now, guys, I just get to seal up the last of that hole and get the vacuum in here and get things cleaned up. So thanks for watching.